Hello everyone and welcome back to another market review. This is Silent. Today we are looking at the NASDAQ December contract for 2025. We are starting off with the weekly chart, and so far in the week we rallied strong and then have pulled off with a high. We're settling in on the week here, and I believe we have ended up making the Thursday high on the week. You'll see that on the lower time frames. Dropping down to the daily chart, I've marked out this imbalance here on the daily and I've graded the gap of the new week opening gap. Today we opened with a gap down, rallied high, and traded into buy-side liquidity from the previous day, and then folded over and dropped down into that daily imbalance there and pulled off the low that was created today. And we got a doji indecisive day candle here. So going into tomorrow, so long as today's wick is respected as a premium array, if price ends up trading into it and stave off any rallies, I want to settle in with a Thursday high on the week idea and potentially draw back down into this gap to end the week. So going into tomorrow, take measurements of the wick to the upside and the wick to the downside from today's candle. On the 4-hour time frame, I've extended this 4-hour buy-side imbalance at a time. That is in the upper quadrant of our daily buy-side imbalance. Just after midnight, we rally and create a new all-time high and come off of the range, and we stay inside the previous wick here just before the close of the day, and we treat the upper half of that range as a premium array on this candle just after the open. So we gap down and rally up and close here and make smooth edges up here basically. So price opens here, wicks high, and takes out all of that liquidity from traders that were trying to short early, and trades lower, tagging that buy-side imbalance, and then comes off the low. In the very next candle, price stays heavy and cannot even reach inside of the wick of the previous candle here, and trades lower and closes below half of the long wick to the downside here. We continue dropping lower, but first taking out the previous candle's opening price and whips down towards that daily buy-side imbalance. It just misses it and comes off the low, and then has some back and forth price action on this open, attempts to drop and comes off the low again. We open here and drop heavily and test the low of the 4-hour buy-side imbalance before coming off, and we actually close this candle as an up close range. And that brings me to this 4-hour buy-side imbalance that we were watching yesterday. If we end up staying inside this range with candle bodies and can overlap this up close candle to the downside, I'll be looking at this as a bearish order block and look to fill the rest of that wick there with candle bodies and attempt to get a closure on the wick down here. On the 1-hour time frame, you can see how we gapped lower and pressed high all night until we take out the previous day's high, and then just as we shift over at midnight, we drop heavily and get a run under the opening of the day. Price comes off of that low and then spends a lot of time consolidating in this range. We ended up breaking lower in the New York pre-market with an imbalance. Price creates an up close candle on top of that 1-hour buy-side imbalance that we were looking at from yesterday. We open price here and rally higher into this imbalance and drop heavily and attempts a run into that buy-side imbalance on the daily, but first comes back up and retests the 1-hour buy-side imbalance as a premium array here. We do a turning point and then finally get that delivery into the daily imbalance, and this 1-hour redelivered rebalance. I'm looking at the long wick here and the area between it that has been overlapped completely with this single candle body. Price drops down into that and touches the low before rallying higher just on the end of the day. It takes out this short-term high and gets a redelivery into the low of this hourly imbalance. I'm watching the remaining portion of this gap for tomorrow. If we wick up into that range and pull lower heavily, I'm going to be expecting a strong drop into that daily level going into tomorrow. Getting up inside this range and closing above it is going to be problematic, and I'm going to have to contend with the run back on the highs and to fill in this imbalance. I'm still keeping in the idea that Thursday has made the high of the week, so if anything, rally up into here and then drop. On the 15-minute time frame, you can see how our Asia range boxes have been playing out this week, and we used Asia range last night and just shortly after midnight to create this reversal on the lower time frames. We dropped heavily lower and overlapped the previous 2 days' ranges and took out a significant level of sell-side liquidity. And depending on where we put our Asia range tonight, if we are in the lower half for the lower 25% of this day's Asia range, I'll be looking bearish. If we end up overlapping this range and this range, I'll just sideline and think that we're going to consolidate on the Friday. You can see how price respected that Tuesday buy-side imbalance on the drop lower yesterday, and it's what allowed us to reaccumulate and get a new run on the Wednesday high just before it shifts lower with a large imbalance. Price spends a lot of time inside that range and breaks lower. We shift below this low and whip down under Wednesday's low. After that delivery is attempted on the daily imbalance, I believe it just goes under this low, which is the high of the daily imbalance by one tick. It comes up and retests that 15-minute sell side imbalance here, and then spends a lot of the rest of the day in a grinding high resistance delivery, and eventually makes a more significant stab lower into that higher time frame imbalance. On the 5-minute time frame, I just want to bring your attention to that proportion of our Asia range, and then it's drop lower just off of the opening price of midnight. We stay below midnight opening price, obviously going through London, and have a lot of time consolidating and accumulating shorts for the release of the day. And a lot of the run is already completed in the pre-market session of New York. The opening of New York session is a flurry of traders who are just trying to catch what just happened, and it pulls a trap on them and sweeps out a lot of buy-side liquidity of all of these traders that were trying to chase short and bringing their stop losses really close. The remaining portion of the day after this liquidity is run, we end up in a high resistance manner, and it's chopping a lot of traders up as it drops down into this low. We ended up pulling off of that range significantly just on the close and rally higher for earnings report. We drop into this imbalance there on this doji candle, and it presses higher above the wick and delivers with strength into all this buy-side liquidity here, and it just misses the new day opening gap on the settlement there. On the 1-minute time frame, it's going to be looking a little busy because I'm bringing in previous day first presentation fair value gaps and our new day opening gap levels. On Thursday's action, we drop down initially on the open of New York, and it goes down into that imbalance by one tick. We reverse from that low and press through the Tuesday new day opening gap and break above it with the imbalance. Price trades all the way back higher and overlaps our first presentation fair value gap. We come up into the new day opening gap and have a reversal. The shift in structure is here, and so the rally that's formed just off of the retest of the first presentation fair value gap is a fadeable rally. We drop lower and have a second shift of structure, so you could be a seller inside this imbalance and every reattempt of the first presentation fair value gap. Price drops, declines towards the Tuesday new day opening gap again, but just misses it. We come back up, retest that imbalance as a premium array, finally get a delivery lower. We come up and consolidate a lot inside the Tuesday opening range imbalance and just set up a consolidation throughout the lunch and the opening of the afternoon. We bang around multiple times between today, first presentation fair value gap, Tuesday's new day opening gap, and Tuesday's first presentation fair value gap. It clears up a little bit as we go into the afternoon. The first presentation fair value gap for the afternoon session is posted here. We get a false decline below it and then rally above to take out traders who are trying to catch shorts. We spend a little bit of time again accumulating at the Tuesday first presentation. We finally drop below the PM session first presentation fair value gap, and there's no retest to the low of that to get a short entry on, but the very next fair value gap that's displaced outside of the range is treated as an institutional order flow entry drill. We also are bumping into the low of this range, and it gives smart money an opportunity to get out of their positions here before prices goes lower. We get a run under sell side, we accumulate shorts, rally it up and manipulate higher, then drop lower. We leave this imbalance here, but it's manipulated and trades above it. Price breaks lower again through the buy side imbalance here with this manipulation move. Accumulation at the top of the Tuesday new day opening gap for shorts before breaking lower with another strong imbalance. We retest it with two candles here, and finally a good sell-off to go into the daily buy side imbalance and Monday's PM first presentation fair value gap. We drop into that low 3 times and just barely miss the Monday's first presentation fair value gap of the morning session before coming off of the low and settling in on the Tuesday new day opening gap. So it was a lot of back and forth between these levels, and it was very nice to see price respect them in short-term scalping moves. Alright guys, so that's going to be it for me. Hopefully you learned something. If you found anything insightful, please let me know in the comments. And as always, leave a like and subscribe. I will see you all tomorrow.